Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the life you thought you knew, the glamorous Instagram posts, the power couple interviews, the carefully curated image of love and success, was nothing but an illusion. That the king you admired, the man who seemed devoted, had been living a double life. And in just 3 days, a single revelation would tear apart his empire, destroy a marriage, and ignite one of the most talked about scandals in hip-hop history. This isn't gossip or speculation. This is the story of Atlanta's most powerful dynasty unraveling in just 72 hours, leaving heartbreak, betrayal, and shattered dreams in its wake. By the end of this story, you'll understand how fame, fortune, and love can all crumble in an instant when secrets are exposed. It all began with a single leak, a private document that somehow found its way into the public eye. Overnight, millions of fans were confronted with a reality that was impossible to ignore. This document contained medical records, alleged messages, and other pieces of evidence pointing to the same shocking conclusion. The King of the South, T.I., had allegedly fathered a child with another woman, Shekinah Anderson. What made this leak so explosive wasn't just the allegation itself, but the timing and detail. Every date, every message, every appointment lined up perfectly to form a timeline that contradicted the carefully crafted public image of T.I. and Tiny as a devoted couple. Social media erupted. Hashtags like #DNA bombshell and #justice for Tiny began trending worldwide, sparking debates, memes, and heated arguments in comment sections across Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Fans who had idolized the couple suddenly felt betrayed themselves. The leak was not merely a private scandal, it became a public spectacle, and as the document circulated, the stakes only grew higher. This wasn't just about cheating. It was about the exposure of an empire built on appearances, now threatened by raw, undeniable proof. The first public crack in the facade came when Tiny decided to speak out. But she didn't release a press statement or hire a PR team to spin the narrative. No, she took the more human, vulnerable route, raw, unfiltered, and utterly relatable. Her statement was simple, yet devastating. "I want a DNA test." In those 5 words, Tiny encapsulated the heartbreak of millions who have ever felt betrayed. She transformed from a celebrity wife into a symbol of courage, willing to confront the truth no matter how painful. And in the world of celebrity scandals, truth is a double-edged sword. On one side, it restores personal agency. On the other, it sets off a chain reaction that exposes secrets no one wants to see. The request for a DNA test wasn't just a legal step. It was an emotional declaration that Tiny would not let her family's integrity be trampled, regardless of the consequences for her marriage or her husband's career. Once Tiny demanded a DNA test, the next wave of the scandal hit like a hurricane. The evidence that surfaced was meticulous and damning. Medical reports detailed conception dates that aligned precisely with T.I.'s presence at a particular Atlanta hotel. Social media posts, previously dismissed as casual check-ins or innocent appearances, suddenly painted a timeline of betrayal that was difficult to refute. The digital breadcrumbs were undeniable. Screenshots allegedly from Shekinah Anderson herself surfaced, showing messages that suggested she understood the potential fallout if the DNA test went public. These weren't just messages. They were evidence of a calculated attempt to manage or mitigate the consequences of the affair. Every post, every image, every cryptic comment began to form a pattern, a narrative of deception that millions were now piecing together in real time. For fans and critics alike, the scandal wasn't just about infidelity, it was about manipulation, control, and the destruction of trust at the highest level of celebrity culture. The day of the DNA results became the most anticipated moment in recent celebrity history. The courthouse was flooded with paparazzi, reporters, and fans, all desperate to witness the moment when private betrayal would become public fact. Inside, the tension was palpable. Tiny, composed, yet visibly shaken, faced a future she could no longer control. Shekinah, caught in the crossfire of public scrutiny and private fear, sat with an uneasy confidence. And T.I., once the untouchable king of the South, appeared hollow, cornered, and increasingly aware that his carefully constructed persona was unraveling. When the DNA results were read aloud, confirming with 99.9% certainty that T.I. was the father of Shekinah's child, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Shouting, crying, accusations, and heartbreak filled the room, spilling out into the media and onto social platforms. The result was more than confirmation of paternity. It was the moment when a public image collided violently with private reality. For T.I., the fall from grace was instantaneous. For Tiny, it was a painful affirmation of betrayal, but also the beginning of reclaiming her power. The fallout was swift and merciless. Within 24 hours, T.I.'s empire began to crumble. Sponsorship deals evaporated, concert bookings were canceled, and the carefully cultivated reputation he had built over decades was in ruins. Media outlets dissected every move, every relationship, and every public statement, while social media users debated endlessly about who was truly to blame. Tiny, on the other hand, emerged as a figure of resilience. Her poise, strength, and refusal to be silenced turned her into a cultural symbol, a woman refusing to allow betrayal to define her or her family. Shekinah's life, by contrast, became a public nightmare. Online harassment, threats, and social condemnation forced her into hiding. The court of public opinion had rendered its verdict. She was not a victim of circumstance, but an active participant in a scandal that destroyed a family. The human cost of this situation was staggering. Behind the headlines and social media commentary were 3 lives irrevocably changed, relationships shattered, and a family forced to navigate a new, uncertain reality. Ultimately, Tiny filed for divorce, demanding full custody of the children, half of the empire, and reparations for emotional trauma. Rumors quickly circulated about a potential tell-all memoir, promising to expose years of secrets, lies, and manipulations. For T.I., the financial and reputational damage was staggering. Estimates suggest losses exceeding $30 million in contracts, endorsements, and career opportunities. Even his music, once omnipresent on streaming playlists, was quietly removed or shadowed in controversy. The claims were explosive. Shekinah Anderson, a figure until then largely unknown outside certain circles, was allegedly pregnant, and the father wasn't some anonymous stranger. It was Clifford Harris himself. Loyal fans of Tiny, who had spent years defending her from whispers and rumors, felt the shock reverberate like a punch to the gut. People demanded answers, and the world quickly shifted from idle curiosity to furious engagement. The digital landscape became a war zone of speculation, outrage, memes, and emotional reactions, with social media users dissecting every post, every comment, and every clip for even the smallest hint of truth. In a matter of hours, a private, devastating family crisis had become a public spectacle of historic proportions. The first gut-wrenching moment of the saga came when Tiny, Clifford Harris's wife and a beloved public figure, stepped forward. With tears streaming down her face, her voice quivering, yet her eyes blazing with unyielding resolve. She addressed the cameras and the world, demanding, "I want a DNA test. I deserve the truth. My family deserves the truth." In that instant, the story shifted from rumor to undeniable reality. Tiny's plea wasn't just for herself. It was for every family that had ever faced betrayal, for every woman who had ever been humiliated by someone she trusted. Her raw, unfiltered emotion transformed what could have been a fleeting gossip story into a gripping human drama that the world could not and would not look away from. Clips of her sobbing in public, collapsing in despair yet standing in resilience, became emblematic of pain, heartbreak, and the fight for dignity against betrayal. The controversy escalated quickly, fueled not only by Tiny's public declaration, but also by the way information spread online. It wasn't just a matter of videos or screenshots being shared. It was the breach of trust and the manner in which this private life was weaponized in public. Tiny later clarified that if the video had been sent privately, she and T.I. could have resolved it in a private conversation, sparing their family from public humiliation. But instead, the social media storm made Tiny a symbol for everyone who had ever had their life broadcast and dissected without consent. In that moment, she was no longer simply a reality star or singer. She was the embodiment of resilience, the face of every broken promise and betrayed trust made public for the world to witness. Then came the alleged evidence that made denial impossible. Shekinah's medical report circulating online revealed a detail that stunned both fans and journalists. The estimated conception date coincided precisely with T.I.'s stay at an Atlanta hotel. This was not a rumor anymore. It was a documented timeline that confirmed what whispers and suspicions had hinted at for weeks. Influencers, journalists, and fans scrambled to analyze the documents, the timeline, and every available piece of media. Tiny, overwhelmed, reportedly fainted during a family confrontation, while T.I.'s Instagram account went completely silent. No posts, no stories, no explanations, just a silence so loud that it spoke volumes to the public, interpreted by many as tacit confirmation of guilt. The Harris empire, once seemingly untouchable, was suddenly vulnerable, exposed, and crumbling under its own weight. The saga reached its first climax in the courtroom, which became the stage for one of the most public betrayals in hip-hop history. Paparazzi swarmed the courthouse steps, capturing every moment, while protesters outside held signs demanding justice for Tiny. Fans packed the galleries, leaning forward as if awaiting the final act of a championship bout rather than a legal proceeding. Inside, tension hung thick in the air. Tiny sat with her lawyers, tissues clutched tightly, her face pale yet resolute. Shekinah arrived heavily guarded, appearing torn between guilt and defiance. T.I., once unshakable and revered, entered with hollow eyes, cornered and facing a public reckoning that would define his legacy. And then came the audio clip, grainy and allegedly T.I.'s voice, whispering, "Don't worry, Shekinah. If this comes out, I'll handle Tiny. Just trust me." The courtroom fell silent. Tiny rose, voice breaking through the anguish, declaring, "You destroyed me. You destroyed our family." She collapsed into her daughter's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. The cameras captured a moment that would be etched into cultural memory. A queen betrayed, her empire crumbling around her, and the world watching in stunned silence. Outside, Atlanta erupted. Some branded Shekinah as a manipulative homewrecker. Others painted her as a victim caught in a treacherous love triangle. The narrative was contested, but one truth was undeniable. The Harris family was unraveling before everyone's eyes. Then came the bombshell. The DNA results, held in a sealed envelope, confirmed what so many feared. Clifford Harris, publicly known as T.I., was the biological father of Shekinah Anderson's child, with 99.9% certainty. Tiny collapsed to the ground, screaming in disbelief. "Why, Clifford? Why would you do this to me, to us?" The courtroom erupted. Fans and media alike reacted in real time across social media, trending hashtags like #DNA bombshell, #TinyBroken, and #cancel T.I. It was a fall from grace witnessed globally, a scandal that would forever mark the history of hip-hop and celebrity culture alike. Adding fuel to the fire, a leaked video surfaced showing T.I. allegedly laughing with friends, boasting, "Tiny ain't going nowhere. She can cry, she can sue, but she'll always need me." The public reacted with fury, branding him a narcissist and manipulator, a king who mocked the very queen he had betrayed. Sponsorships vanished overnight, major deals were canceled, and former allies distanced themselves. Meanwhile, Shekinah faced a different kind of backlash, receiving death threats and enduring protests outside her home, while her every online move was scrutinized and attacked. She claimed in an emotional Instagram live, "I didn't destroy the family, he did. He told me he loved me. He told me he'd leave Tiny, and now I'm the one paying the price." But the court of public opinion had already decided, leaving her to navigate a treacherous path between victimhood and blame. The final blow came swiftly. Tiny officially filed for divorce, seeking full custody of her children, half of T.I.'s empire, and damages for emotional trauma. Leaked court documents detailed repeated betrayal, public humiliation, and irreparable emotional harm. Paparazzi captured her leaving the courthouse, sunglasses shielding her swollen eyes, her children by her side, a haunting image of resilience and heartbreak. Headlines screamed, "Tiny ends it all. DNA bombshell destroys Harris family." The empire of one of hip-hop's most influential figures lay in ruins. T.I. retreated into silence, while Tiny, elevated by the public as a symbol of survival and dignity, began to reclaim her narrative. This scandal, in essence, was not just about infidelity. It was a cautionary tale about the fragility of power, the consequences of deception, and the way secrets, no matter how well hidden, eventually surface. Tiny's story is one of resilience, strength, and the reclaiming of agency in the face of betrayal. T.I.'s downfall serves as a warning of the high cost of living a double life under the unrelenting gaze of public scrutiny. And for Shekinah's trajectory, reminds us that choices have consequences, some of them devastatingly public. This scandal was never just about cheating or betrayal. It was about power, control, and the consequences of deceit. It demonstrated how quickly an empire can collapse when built on lies, and how courage and truth can transform pain into power. Tiny's journey reminds us that even in the darkest moments, strength and resilience can shine through, while T.I.'s experience underscores the cost of deception and the fragility of public trust. And for fans watching from the outside, it's a sobering question. What would you do if everything you believed about someone you loved turned out to be a lie? How would you navigate the fallout, protect those you love, and reclaim your own life? This isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a story about humanity, choices, and the consequences that follow when truth finally emerges.